Recreation. Travel. New sounds and new sights. Each of us has dreams about the future. They are different dreams, of course. Some yearn for new challenges and so retire from one career and move on to another. Others seek more leisure time, more peace of mind, and days of less stress.
The key word today is choice. People nearing retirement age today have more choices than people ever had before in history. Choice of whether to retire, choice of when to retire, where to retire.
Many choices, many questions. Whatever your age, the basic questions about retirement are: how much money am I going to need to live comfortably? Will my Social Security, my pension, the income from my savings and investments be enough? And if not, what can I do about it between now and retirement?
I think the important thing people should know about retirement is that, first of all, Social Security is not going to be as good a deal in the future as it is for people who are retiring right now. Secondly, and fortunately, company pension plans are better than they've ever been with all sorts of built-in protections. But third, the combination of those two is probably not enough. You've got to be aware of what your choices are, and you've got to be aware of what the dangers are. If you put all of the things together, you can plan a comfortable retirement if you start early enough.
Then, at retirement, there's the matter of taking your pension. Which way is best?
It's a very important decision. It's a decision you're going to live with for the rest of your life. And there can be very big differences between how much your economic benefit from this pension is over the rest of your life.
I think the most important advice I could give is act now, don't wait. You need to focus on your retirement years when you have time to think about it, as opposed to a last-minute crash decision.
I know through people that we know personally, unless you prepare for your retirement, it is a disaster. This is the truth.
So, let's start with what you need to know about your employer pension, an important source of retirement income. For starters, are you vested in the pension? Have you worked for your employer long enough to earn a legal right to it? Federal law gives employers two choices. One is called cliff vesting. During the early years, you're not vested at all. Then after 5 years, you become 100% vested. Under a gradual vesting schedule, you become 20% vested after 3 years on the job and fully vested after 7. But vesting is just one component of a pension plan.
You still need to understand how the calculations in your plan are made, what the contributions by your employer are based upon.
So the next step is finding out what kind of plan you're vested in.
People talk about pension plans generally, but there are different types. You have defined benefit plans, you have defined contribution plans. Technical terms, but the way in which they operate for the individual is significantly different.
Under a defined benefit plan, you are promised a pension that is based on the number of years you work for the company and your salary leading up to the years before you retire.
The pension is often based on your average salary for the past 5 years. Employees might earn, say, 1.5% of the average for each year on the job. The longer you work, the more you build up those annual credits, as well as your average salary. Here's an example. After 30 years of work, your average salary the last 5 years, $60,000. Pension credits, multiply the 30 years by 1.5%. That comes to 45%. So, your pension is 45% of $60,000, or $27,000 a year. If you work that long and earn that salary, the company promises to pay you that pension. But as the guidebook explains, if you leave the company early, you'll be penalized. Many union-negotiated pensions guarantee a specific amount at retirement, but the calculations work differently. Under one major union contract, retirees get $27 a month for each year that they worked. So someone with 30 years on the job receives $810 a month. In order to pay you that pension, the company invests money, usually in the stock market.
If the market goes down far enough so that the pension fund where it's invested is not enough to pay off the pensions that are going to come due, federal law requires that the company put enough money into that plan to make it whole. So the risk is on the company's side.
A defined benefit plan promises a specific amount at retirement. The other major type of pension plan makes no such promise. With defined contribution plans, employers promise only to contribute to your pension fund each year. Many contribute amounts equal to 4 or 5% of your salary yearly.
That money is invested for you, and when you retire, you get whatever your account is worth at the time. That means that you are the one taking the market risks.
As you near retirement age, it's important to begin moving your retirement dollars into safer, less risky investments in order to shield a part of your money from the ups and downs of the market.
The last couple of years, transfer it into stuff that's going to be permanent, like guaranteed interest funds rather than mutual funds and what have you.
Another important source of retirement income is Social Security.
Social Security is not going to be as good a deal in the future as it is for people who are retiring right now.
That doesn't mean that it's a bad deal. It doesn't mean that they won't be getting a strong benefit 20 years from now when the baby boomers begin to retire.
You can call to find out what you can expect to get from Social Security. They'll send you this simple form. Fill it out and send it in. They promise an answer in 6 weeks or less. Whether you can get full benefits at age 65 depends on when you were born.
Normal retirement age is being raised from 65 gradually over a period of years to age 67. It will hit first those who were born in 1938.
For example, normal retirement age for people born in 1938 is 65 years and 2 months. 1940, 65 years, 6 months. Those born in 1943 will have to be 66 to get full benefits. While you can count on Social Security benefits, Congress can always change the value of what you're really getting. So saving your own money for retirement is important.
Don't leave the savings to others. Don't leave your retirement security in other people's hands. Not your company pension, not Social Security. Put aside a good bit of income in your peak earning years of the 40s and 50s to make sure that you have the retirement that you want to have.
Well, I have a wonderful wife. She was very frugal. She took care of our money as we've been married 52 years. And so we're not worried about it, see?
My son used to call me Cheapy Irma.
You just saved a lot of money.
I saved as much as I could. Never lived over our income. Always had a little bit left over.
We figured 10 to 15% of anything we made went into the bank, and that's the way we did it.
I'd say the first thing you should start doing is try to save at least 12 to 15% of your money.
Many people force themselves to save through automatic payroll withholding, where they can buy savings bonds, buy their employer's stock, contribute to their employer's thrift plan or profit-sharing plan or 401k plan. It's a concept called pay yourself first. Donnie and Geraldine McKetchin do. They're in their 50s and work for IBM.
Starting with the 401k, we have money deducted from our salaries, which is what we call tax-deferred savings plan.
Well, I'm a saver, and so anything that I can get that IBM gives us, I sign up for.
Steve and Patty Athens are in their 40s. He works for a private employer, she for a county government.
We pay ourselves first in the form of money that comes out of our paychecks. We never even see it.
I contribute 21% of my salary comes right off the top. There's a 6% retirement package through the county and a deferred comp, which is like a 401k, which I take 15% out.
How much you save often depends on your age and stage of life. Many baby boomers like Steve and Patty have their children later and are saving for college and retirement at the same time. Greg McBride is in his early 40s and works for the federal government, which offers a pretty good pension. But he's watched budget cuts trim the benefits in recent years.
And so I feel less secure about what that program will look like when it is my time to retire.
Does that mean you're going to try to save more between now and retirement?
Oh, sure. So we have money in IRAs. I'm putting money in the government 401k program.
Some people need to save more now because their jobs just aren't as secure as they used to be. Takeovers, mergers, and corporate streamlining have put more people at risk of losing their paychecks.
People who are in that situation need to save more of their current income for their 401k. They need to be more conservative in the whole financial realm. They need to invest more conservatively, and they need to save more.
Even people with solid, good-paying jobs eventually conclude they'll have to save more. Joe Kopp, now in his 50s and working for IBM, remembers reviewing his finances a decade ago.
Then when I started to realize what the pension was going to be, I realized we really need to do some other things.
We also, this last Christmas when we were down in Hilton Head, we started looking at land because that's an excellent retirement area. And there's some very nice areas down there.
So Joe and Mary invested in real estate growth stocks and growth stock mutual funds. He also puts money in IBM's 401k plan, and the company matches a portion of his contribution.
You can get rich on that program.
But it comes with a warning of a tax penalty if
you're going to need money before you're age 59 and a half, putting funds into a 401k plan may not be a good idea, because if you withdraw before 59 and a half, you'll have a penalty on early withdrawal of 10%.
With 401ks, the contributions are tax deductible and the interest and dividends are tax deferred. KEOs work the same way for small businesses, a sideline business, and the self-employed. Simplified employee pensions, or SEPs, are also used by small business and the self-employed. Or consider one of the most popular saving programs ever, the IRA.
An individual retirement account is definitely still a good deal. If you qualify to deduct the amount, it's one of the best deals around.
But there are limits on who can deduct the full $2,000 IRA contribution. Your guidebook goes over the details, but even if you can't deduct a dime, an IRA is still good because the interest compounds tax-free until you take the money out. Consider this. Put $2,000 a year in a non-deductible IRA and assume it earns 10% interest a year. After 30 years, it's worth $329,000. You'll pay taxes on that money when you take it out. Assuming a 28% tax bracket, you wind up with $253,000 if you take the money all at once. If you had saved that money in a taxable account, paid taxes on it every year, you'd have just $196,000. So the IRA wins by $57,000. But IRAs aren't the only way to build money tax-free.
For instance, there are life insurance plans, there are annuities that also offer what an IRA offers, that is tax-free buildup of the investment earnings inside the account, but do not put the $2,000 a year limit on it.
I put some in annuities. I doubled my money in 5 years, and I'm drawing it out about $400 a month now.
How much you would get depends on your age, how much you invest, how you invest it, and how long you will receive the income.
The main thing to realize is that different kinds of annuities give you different amounts of income for different lengths of time.
Among your options, a life annuity which pays you during your lifetime, a joint and survivor annuity which pays during your lifetime and that of your beneficiary, and certain annuities guarantee payment for a certain number of years.
You need to understand what happens if I want to withdraw all of my funds early. Can I do that? What happens if I pass away? Are there any funds that pass to my next of kin?
When it comes to buying an annuity, shop around and compare the rate of return promised, the commission you pay, and the bailout cost, how much you'll pay if you want to get your money back. There's also a tax penalty if you bail out before age 59 and a half. The advantage of these accounts is that your money compounds tax deferred, and in the long run you come out ahead. But you'll need to consider other investments as well. And you have a variety of options to choose from: stocks and bonds, CDs, and so on. When it comes to strategies, spread your risk. Diversify your investments. Consider the risk pyramid. You want a solid base of low-risk investments, such as CDs and money market funds, some medium-risk investments, such as long-term growth stock mutual funds, and depending on how much risk you can stand, perhaps some higher-risk investments. Generally, the greater the potential rate of return an investment offers, the greater the risk. Your guidebook lists a variety of investments and the risks that go with them. Through diversification and patient long-term investing, you can control the risks and come out ahead. Look at the record over the long haul. On average, growth stocks have grown at a rate of 12% a year. Office and commercial real estate, 11.9%. Blue chip stocks, 10%. Residential real estate, 7.7%. Long-term bonds, 4 to 5%. Treasury bills, 3.5%. If one investment suffers, the others may improve. For example, rising interest rates could hurt stock prices, but increase your return on CDs and money market funds.
The principles of sound investing are the same for people of any age. They focus on a mix of risk, a mix of types of investment, diversity, a cushion of highly liquid, accessible assets. Those principles are the same, but the mix of investments, the mix of uses to which you put your money does change with age.
Generally, the younger you are, the greater risk you can take because you have more time to make up for any mistakes.
Certainly a guy in his 40s would probably have more of a slant toward growth kinds of investment than a guy in his 60s.
Here are sample portfolio mixes for people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. There are guidelines for you to consider as you spread your risks and diversify your investments. We'll start with people in their 40s who may have 15% in cash, CDs and money market funds, 15% in fixed income investments, 40% in stocks, 30% in investment real estate, something other than your home. Fixed income may include bonds or bond mutual funds. Stocks may include growth stock mutual funds, which offer long-term growth, not current dividend payments. Real estate might be rental property, a vacation home or condo, or a limited partnership.
Bought a townhouse a couple of years ago, hoping for appreciation for that, either to pay for college education or for retirement.
As you move into your 50s, take advantage of the special programs that banks offer seniors, everything from bonus rate CDs to free traveler's checks. As for your investments, the shifts are subtle but important. 15% cash, the same in fixed income, 40% in stocks, and 30% in real estate. The mix is the same as in your 40s, but has a lower level of risk. With fixed income, you may move some money into safer, lower-risk bond funds. Consider keeping your growth stock funds, but as you continue investing, look for less risky stocks and those that pay dividends.
We've got some speculative stocks.
A little bit of everything.
We've got some good blue chip stocks. Our mutual funds some are aggressive, some are high yields. We have some tax-exempt bonds.
Mutual fund investors should also consider growth and income-type funds, which invest in growth as well as dividend-paying stocks. And in real estate, you may want to begin scouting around for a retirement home.
We own a condo in the South, and we like that, and our plan is to buy a larger house in the South at some point in time.
As you move into your 60s and approach retirement, the margin for error narrows in two ways. There's less time to recover from any investment mistakes, and there are fewer income-earning years to make up for any possible loss. So the mix of investments and the level of risk should change, but not overnight.
Be gradual. Gradually shift out of more risky investments, more illiquid investments as retirement nears. Increase the percentage of CDs, money market funds, bond funds, things of that sort in the portfolio.
So your money pie may look something like this. 25% in each major category: cash, stocks, bonds, and real estate. With CDs, go for a mix of short and long term. Fixed income investments may include annuities. With stocks, it's important to keep some growth stock investments, but also look for stocks paying hefty dividends. What you do with your real estate in your 60s depends on various factors. Do you have the time to manage the property? Will you need the equity in retirement? Remember, real estate is illiquid. You can't sell it just any old time and get the price you want. So with a few years left to retirement, wait until you think the market is peaking, then sell. Certainly there's nothing wrong with keeping a rental property, especially if it offers a solid monthly income. And those that continue to appreciate in value are good growth investments that provide a hedge against inflation. Whatever your age, remember to stay diversified. Many companies offer employees company stock at a discount. That's a deal that's hard to pass up, but don't overload your portfolio.
I think individuals in general should be wary of having too much invested in one company, even if that company is their employer.
It's quite common for a company to be investing in its own stock for its pension plan or for its profit-sharing plan, which may form part of its pension plan. So you need to be aware of that so that you don't go out and buy even more stock.
Your pension is a major source of income in retirement. How you take the money is important.
The options that are presented to individuals today can just boggle your mind.
Congress, and the way it's put the tax law together, has really given people a number of choices, and the choice that you make can dramatically affect how much tax you pay.
There might be 6 or 7 alternatives that an individual has to explore and really understand before making the decision.
One way to go, take the pension in the form of an annuity, monthly payments for the rest of your life. Another option, take the money in the form of a lump sum and roll it over into an IRA. But be careful how you take it. If your employer puts the money in your hands first, the IRS can now take 20% withholding tax off the top, even if no tax is due. You will get that money back in the form of a refund when you file your taxes. But in the meantime, if you're under age 55, you only have 60 days to roll over the full amount of your pension funds into an IRA before you get hit with a 10% penalty. So you would need to come up with the missing 20% from some other source. A way around this mess? Have your employer roll over the money for you. If it doesn't pass through your hands, the IRS can't touch it.
Make sure you roll it over, though, so Uncle Sam doesn't take a big bite on it.
Let's talk about it. An IRA rollover?
IRA rollover, exactly right.
What did you do?
Originally, I parked it in bank money funds, okay? And then I proceeded to invest in the market. I made some pretty good money in the market for 3 years. And then, as everybody knows, the market went kahootie.
Yeah.
Now I've been in something a little safer, treasuries and CDs for the last year and a half.
You could roll over the lump sum into an individual retirement annuity, or take the lump sum, keep the money, and pay taxes on it under a method called 5-year forward averaging. If you keep the payout, you will have 20% withheld, which you won't get back until you file for a refund at the end of the year. But if you need a large chunk of money in a relatively short period of time to start a business or relocate, for example, 5-year forward averaging, or if you qualify, 10-year forward averaging can significantly cut your tax bill.
So, very complex choices, and very easy to make a mistake.
It's a very important decision. It's a decision you're going to live with for the rest of your life.
There's no going back. The company isn't even going to let you change your mind, much less the tax laws.
The guidebook goes over your options in detail. Still, consider getting advice from a specialist.
I really believe that this is an area where people need some professional help. Some employers will provide that help.
You should be really thinking about this 1 to 2 years prior to your anticipated retirement date.
It's often possible for seniors to live for years on their pension, their Social Security, and the earnings from their investments. But at some point, it may become necessary to spend some of the principal in their savings accounts.
If you are finding that your income is not sufficient from a pension and from Social Security to live comfortably, you should consider drawing down your nest egg.
You may have to borrow against the equity in your home. It may even possibly mean, in some cases, selling the home to free up the equity to be used to invest and enhance that income stream.
Your home may be your single biggest investment, and once you hit your mid-50s, it may be your single biggest tax break. You don't have to pay taxes on up to $125,000 of profit when you sell your home if you're 55 years old, it's your principal residence, and you've lived there 3 out of the past 5 years. Selling the home frees up a lot of money. Some you can invest, the rest you can use to buy a smaller, inexpensive home in the same area or in a lower cost area of the country. But selling your home is just one alternative.
I think a lot of older Americans should study a reverse mortgage.
With a reverse mortgage, a lender pays you in the form of monthly loans. How much you get depends on your age and the equity in your home. You get a check every month until you move out of the house or until your death. Then the loan is repaid, usually from the sale of the house.
Of course, if you live a long time and you draw down the equity in your home, it means that your home someday will go lock, stock, and barrel to the lender. There'll be very little value left for your heirs when you die. But in the meantime, you have enjoyed a more comfortable living in retirement by drawing down that equity.
Reverse mortgages can be an important supplement to other retirement income. Your guidebook has specific examples and information on where to find those mortgages.
Reverse mortgages are difficult to find today, but they're going to become much more common.
Another safe way to tap your nest egg is to take some of your savings and buy an annuity, because an annuity can pay you for the rest of your life, a guaranteed source of income.
So that's one way of spending your principal with some certainty and predictability, and with the real certainty there is that it's not going to run out before you die.
Another certainty of retirement is inflation. Every year it costs more to live than it did the previous year. But while Social Security benefits go up with the cost of living, private pensions don't. So what looks like a generous pension the day you retire loses buying power over the years.
I retired early. I thought I was in very good shape, but as you go along, you find out that with inflation, things just not turn out the way you expect them to.
Consider how 5% inflation cuts the buying power of your pension. The year you retire, every $100 of pension buys $100 of products and services. The next year, buying power drops to $95. The following year, $90 and change. Then less than $86. 5 years after retirement, you have less than $82 worth of buying power. In effect, inflation cuts your pension more than 18%.
Does the pension go up with inflation?
No, because in the last 9 years it has gone up once. That was, I think, in 1986. It had gone up once, and so, that was it.
That's not as worth as much as it was when you first got it.
No, it's not worth as much as when I first retired. I thought I was in very good shape at the time, but as the years go by, you find out you do fall behind, whether you like it or not. And you must curtail your activities.
So you can't plop all of your money into CDs and say I'm safe, because you're not safe from inflation, especially if you spend the interest every year, as many people have to. So it's important to stay diversified, keeping some money in CDs as well as the investments that grow in value over time, such as stocks and real estate.
Is there something you would have done differently knowing now what you know?
Yes, I feel that I would have worked a couple of years longer and try to build up my pension and some finances.
Whenever you retire, your budget is likely to be different than it is today. Many retirees spend more on health care or travel, while spending less on other expenses, such as clothing and housing. Some retirees even look for a new place to live, where prices aren't too high, but where temperatures are.
I think we will be in the south, where the climate is warmer. We both don't like winter.
So we're looking at possible sites now, North Carolina, South Carolina. The cost of living is a lot less. That's certainly a factor,
That's a factor, a real factor.
There are many attractive low-cost areas in the country. Lower taxes, lower food costs, lower cost of housing.
But do you want to live in those areas? Do you want to move far from where you lived for many years, far from where your friends and family and grandchildren are? That's a decision that's a very tough one for many people to make, and it will have a lot of bearing on how much income you need in retirement.
Your guidebook has more information about choosing a new place to call home. Whether or not you move, a key concern is the availability and cost of good medical care. Medicare pays for some, but not all of the expenses for people 65 and older. What you need to know about Medicare coverage is in this booklet called the Medicare Handbook. To get a copy of the handbook, contact your local Social Security office. Once you've reviewed what Medicare pays for, you may want to buy additional insurance to cover what Medicare doesn't. One option is so-called Medigap insurance.
This is private insurance that's sold to pay for exactly those kinds of things, the gaps in Medicare coverage. It tends to be expensive.
The catastrophic health care law was supposed to fill many of those gaps in the 90s, but in late 1989, the law was repealed, so the gaps remain, and most people need insurance to fill them.
You have to weigh the cost of your own medical experience and your own medical fees against the $600 to $800 a year it's going to cost you to buy a Medigap policy.
The guidebook goes over the ins and outs of how to shop for a Medigap insurance policy. You may also be able to plug the gaps in Medicare by converting your employer's group coverage into a Medicare supplemental policy when you turn 65. Or maybe you can join a health maintenance organization or competitive medical plan which participates in Medicare. Nursing home bills are another concern. At age 65, the odds of going into a nursing home for men is 1 chance in 3. For women, 1 chance in 2. And the costs are high. They can run $2,000 to $4,000 a month, and Medicare doesn't help much, paying only for Medicare patients who have a health problem and who need follow-up medical attention in what's called a skilled nursing facility. Medicare does not pay anything if someone goes to a nursing home for Alzheimer's disease or because they need help eating, dressing, or bathing every day. This is called custodial care. People in their 60s who have assets of $50,000 or more, not counting their home, should consider buying insurance to cover part of the cost of custodial care in a nursing home. It's called long-term care insurance, but like anything else, not all policies are worth buying.
Studies have shown repeatedly that most people, most policyholders with nursing home insurance don't get paid anything when they go into nursing homes. And the reason is restrictions.
Insurance premiums range from $300 to $3,500 a year, depending on your age and benefits offered. The guidebook lists key provisions to look for when considering such policies. Some companies offer a combination of long-term care and life insurance policies. Be careful, though. Shop around and compare. Your life insurance needs typically change as you get older. The greater your financial responsibilities, the more insurance you need. So people in their 40s with young children need the most insurance. But when the kids graduate from college and as your mortgage balance drops, your financial responsibility shrinks. At the same time, your savings and investments are growing, so you need less insurance.
You have to evaluate, do you still need life insurance? Do you still need this amount of life insurance? And the answer to those questions may be no.
Here are your options if you have a policy with cash value buildup. Drop the policy and take the cash. Reduce your insurance by half and take half the cash value that's been built up, or borrow some of the cash value. Maybe you'll take the cash and buy an annuity, like Murray Howell.
I turned in all my insurance into annuities, you see. I didn't need insurance anymore at my age. And it doubled its money in 5 years.
Before making any moves, consider your needs.
You can't make a financial decision like this in a vacuum. You really have to be looking at a plan. You have to understand, the decision in the context of your whole financial situation.
Part of your plan should include some protection in the form of estate planning, a way for you to guarantee that the estate you've built and all that's left in it goes directly to your heirs and not to the state or to Uncle Sam. A will ensures that your wishes regarding your estate will be carried out. And careful estate planning can also prevent the loss of thousands of dollars in probate costs and inheritance taxes. In general, the federal estate tax laws let you pass on to your heirs as much as $600,000 without paying any tax. It sounds like a lot, but not by today's standards. Try adding up your assets. You may be surprised. In addition, individuals may give as much as $10,000 a year each to anyone they wish without incurring the federal gift tax. For married couples giving jointly, the maximum is $20,000. Herm and Edna Seufer have 4 children. They give them money periodically. It helps out the kids and makes them feel good.
They're adults now, most of my children are, and they're married, and they may have a sense of obligation that they want to pay back the parents for certain sums that they need at the moment or something like that. But otherwise, I feel it's a gift.
An attorney who specializes in writing wills and planning estates may charge anywhere from $100 to $1,000, depending on what you need. A simple will that's written according to the laws of your state should be relatively inexpensive, but it's vital to your heirs. A trust of some kind in which your assets are protected will take more planning and will cost more to set up. Michael and Sadie Jones took early retirement so they can enjoy each other and their new Florida condo. They have a will for each of them in case anything happens, but they're not overly concerned about leaving a large estate to the kids.
But that's not to say that we wouldn't help them if they really needed it.
Yeah,
if something went wrong or they were ill or something, of course, then we would help them.
Needed us.
Well, whatever is left, and I'm sure something is going to be left, and then they will get it.
Michael and Sadie, like so many others, saved a long time for the days when they could enjoy their leisure time. It was work, but it's paid off.
You have to sacrifice in the beginning, but, you know.
There's a payoff in the end.
There's a payoff in the end.
Our advice is to start saving, and start saving early, and save as much as you can, even though that may be a small amount, because over time it will compound.
The only thing certain about the future is that things will change. So it's important to review your plans now and then as you move into each succeeding stage of life. Check to make sure you're still on track. Are you spending too much? Saving too little? Are your investments too risky or too conservative? Invest the time now, and your golden years will be just that. Page 31 of the guidebook contains the instructions for filling out the worksheet. Read them carefully, then restart this tape. It will take about 20 minutes to fill out the worksheet once you've gathered all the information you need. Have a calculator handy as we go through the worksheet line by line. Step 1. First, we'll figure out how much retirement income you'll need. Line 1, enter your current annual income. Line 2, enter the number of years to retirement. Line 3, enter the expected annual pay raises between now and retirement. Do you expect 4% a year, 5%? Pick a reasonable percentage and enter it on line 3. Now turn to Table 1 on page 32. You're looking for the multiplier, which is based on your expected percent pay raises and the number of years to retirement. Find where the years and the percent column intersect. That's your multiplier. Enter the multiplier on line 4. Line 5. Multiply line 1 by line 4. Line 5 lists your pre-retirement income, your income just before retirement. A rule of thumb is that in retirement, you usually need 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income. We'll use 80%. Line 6. Multiply line 5 by 0.8. Line 6 is the amount of income you'll need for your first year of retirement. Step 2. How your current savings and investments will grow. On line 7, enter your current savings as explained in the guidebook instructions on page 31. Line 8, rate of growth. What percent do you expect your savings to grow each year? Enter that percent on line 8. If you don't know what percent to choose, use 8%, the figure used in the example in the guidebook. Now go back to Table 1 on page 32 and find where the percent increase you expect intersects with the number of years to retirement. That's your multiplier. Enter the multiplier on line 9. Line 10. Multiply line 7 by line 9. Line 10 is what your current savings will be worth when you retire. Step 3. What will your pension be worth? Fill in line 11 and line 11A according to the instructions on page 31 of the guidebook. Enter the annual pension amount on line 11 if you have a defined benefit plan. If you have a defined contribution plan, fill in the amount on line 11A. You or your spouse may have both types of pension plans. Step 4. What will your Social Security benefits be worth? Line 12, enter your Social Security benefit according to the instructions on page 31 in the guidebook. Line 13, enter the expected annual inflation rate between now and retirement. If you don't know what number to choose, use 4%. Now go to Table 1 on page 32 and find where the expected inflation rate intersects with the number of years to retirement. That's your multiplier. Enter the multiplier on line 14. Line 15. Multiply line 12 by line 14. Line 15 is your Social Security benefit at retirement and reflects future increases due to inflation. Step 5. Adding up your retirement income. Line 16, enter the amount listed on line 10. Line 17, multiply line 16 by line 8. Line 17 tells you how much annual income you'll get from your savings when you retire. Line 18, add lines 11, 11A, 15, and 17. Line 18 is your projected retirement income from all sources. Line 19, enter the amount listed on line 6. Line 19 is your retirement income target. Line 20, subtract line 18 from line 19. If line 18 is smaller than line 19, you face an income gap at retirement, so you'll have to save more. Go on to line 21. If line 18 is greater than line 19, you face no income gap at retirement. So enter 0 on line 20. Go on to line 25, step 8. Step 6. How much more savings are needed to close the gap if there is one? Line 21. Divide line 20 by line 8. Line 21 is how much additional savings you'll need at retirement. Step 7. How much will you have to save each month? Go to Table 2 on page 33. It shows how much you'll have if you save $100 a month after a period of years at a given rate of return. If you don't know what percentage to use 8%. See where your years to retirement column intersects with the growth rate you expect. How much will you have to save each month? Enter that amount on line 22 where it says future savings. Line 22 is how much additional savings you'll have at retirement if you save $100 a month until you retire. If line 22 matches or exceeds line 21, then you only need to save $100 every month until you retire. If line 22 is smaller than line 21, you'll need to save more than $100 a month. How much more? Go to line 23. Divide line 21 by line 22. Line 24. Multiply line 23 by $100. Line 24 tells you how much you'll need to save every month between now and retirement to reach your income goal for your first year of retirement. Step 8. Now you know how much you need to save to at least begin retirement. But having enough to begin doesn't mean you'll have enough to maintain your standard of living later on. Our next step, figuring how much income you'll need 5 years after retirement. We'll start on line 25, where you'll enter the amount listed on line 26. Choose one of the options listed under line 26 in the guidebook. The multiplier is based on what you expect the inflation rate to be each year after retirement. If you don't know what number to choose, use 1.22. Line 27. Multiply line 25 by line 26. Line 27 is your annual income target 5 years after retirement. It's the amount you'll need to maintain your standard of living. Step 9. Where will the money come from? First, we'll adjust your Social Security income for inflation. Multiply line 15 by line 26 for line 28, which estimates what your Social Security benefit will be 5 years after retirement. Line 29. This line is only for people who have defined benefit plans. If your pension does not increase with inflation each year, enter the amount on line 11. If your pension does increase with inflation each year, as many government pensions do, multiply line 11 by line 26. Add lines 17 and 20 to get line 30, which tells what your annual income from your savings will be 5 years after retirement. Add lines 11A, 28, 29, and 30 for line 31, which is what your annual retirement income will be from all sources 5 years after retirement. Line 32. Subtract line 31 from line 27. If line 31 is greater than line 27, you will have no income gap 5 years after you retire. If line 31 is smaller than line 27, you will have an income gap. Go on to step 10. How much more savings do you need to make up for the shortfall? Divide line 32 by line 8 to get line 33. This tells how much additional savings you'll need at retirement in order to maintain your standard of living 5 years after you retire. Step 11. How much you must save each month to make up the shortfall. Divide line 33 by line 22 for line 34. Line 35. Multiply line 34 by $100. Now you know how much you'll have to save every month between now and retirement in order to maintain your standard of living 5 years after retirement. Let's review now what you'll have to do to reach your income goals in retirement. Line 24 is the amount you need to save every month between now and retirement in order to have enough money for your first year of retirement. Line 35 is the additional amount you need to save every month between now and retirement in order to maintain your standard of living 5 years after you retire. That's the ideal amount, but you may not have to save it all because you have a variety of other options as explained in Chapter 5 and succeeding chapters. Please turn now to guidebook page 42 for additional information about the bottom line you've reached on the worksheet.